All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, North Carolina exporters and trade and business experts. Welcome to today's webinar, where you will learn some of the best practices in the digital realm to make 2022 your best export year. We appreciate your time today, and we hope that you will find this a great investment of your time this morning. We're going to give everybody just a minute or so to finish logging in and get settled. But before we start, we'll just do a short roundtable of introductions of the great exporters and trade experts on today's panel. So joining us today are Mike Hubbard, who is Director of International Trade and Economic Development at the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, or the EDPNC for short. Susanna Hardy, who is our Chief Content Officer here at IBT Online, and yours truly, I'm Major Viller, Director of Business Development at IBT Online. Just a little bit about us at IBT Online before we get started, and as everyone just trickles in. The IBT in IBT Online stands for International Business and Technology. We're a digital marketing and technology firm with a mission of supporting U.S. exporters in growing their international sales, their brand, and their business online and into their top target markets. We were recognized in 2020 with the President's E Award for Export Service for our contribution to the expansion of U.S. exports and the success of our clients. Some additional quick facts about us. We're a US-based company, actually headquartered here in Florida, where I am, with over 20 years experience in the industry, across which we have developed relationships with over 25 US state development agencies, including, of course, in the state of North Carolina with the EDPNC. We've delivered over 2,000 of our programs to just over 650 corporate clients in 24 different languages, in over 40 different countries, and 65 different target markets. And we also have a lot of free resources, 800 of them, in fact, just like today's webinar, but also in the form of videos, short blogs, infographics, and many other formats and many other bits of information about the online world in different jurisdictions. Finally, there's some impressive numbers there at the bottom of the screen, but that just really speaks to our obsession on client satisfaction and feedback from our partners and to achieving your goals. We're also very proud to announce that we have just received the North Carolina Governor's Export Service Provider Award from Governor Roy Cooper. We are incredibly proud of this recognition in helping North Carolina companies succeed online and globally. And we thank, of course, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina for their support and their endorsement. Now, as for today's agenda, we have a really nice agenda lined up for you, and we'll start with Mike Hubbard, Director of International Trade at the EDPNC, and his overview of the many great resources that the EDPNC offers to North Carolina's businesses and exporters. Then Susanna will discuss why North Carolina exporters, whether you're a manufacturer, a service provider, or perhaps an agribusiness, why you should pivot to digital to accelerate your international growth in 2022. That'll be followed by a number of successful North Carolina case studies. I'll then come back to give you some details on best practice website localization for North Carolina exporters and to discuss key online marketing trends to watch for in 2022 to make this your best export year. Finally, we'll wrap up with some takeaways and, of course, your questions, which, by the way, you may submit at any time using the chat feature that is currently enabled. We'll also be hitting you with a poll here and there to get some real-time feedback from you. So I'll let you know when those are coming up. So with that, Mike Hubbard, Director of International Trade at the EDPNC, welcome. It's great to see you again, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for having me with you today. I am Mike Hubbard, Director of International Trade at EDPNC. For those of you who aren't familiar with EDPNC, just real quick, we were formed in 2014 by the North Carolina Legislature as a public-private partnership to do into 5 major areas, to do 5 major functions. 1, business recruitment, bringing new companies here into the state. 2, we have an existing industry team spread throughout the state. So if you're expanding or have workforce questions, this team can assist you with that. We have a small business support unit called the Small Business Advisors who help startups, help walk companies through the whole startup process. We have the tourism team that promotes North Carolina both in this country and all over the world. And of course, the international trade team. So let me introduce my team, kind of what we do. Can we see the next slide, please? So, and I won't read the slide. We do a lot of different things, but I just want to focus on a couple of them, kind of where we spend a great deal of our time. One, just helping companies with market intelligence, market entry strategies, distributor searches. North Carolina has 7 offices all over the world. They cover maybe 40 countries, and we help companies with distributors and partner searches all over the world. We have educational events throughout the year, just like this one, anywhere from 20 last year was 30, was a lot. So we do this throughout the year, covering a range of topics, export compliance, export licensing, questions like that. And of course, ones like this about selling in international markets and website optimization. We're well known for trade show assistance. In a non-COVID year, our team will go to 35 to 40 trade shows all over the world. And we'll have booths, or we also have grants that help companies go to booths. And I'll talk about the grants in just a moment, or I'll tell you about the STEP grant, because it does cover the trade shows. It'll reimburse travel and booth, not at the same show, so you can go to 2 different ones, have travel reimbursed up to $3,000 and up to $5,000 for a booth. Has $6,000 for other export services like translation, digital marketing services that IBT can assist you with, and XM credit insurance reimbursements. And then finally, there's up to a $10,000 reimbursement for website optimization. So please reach out to us if you haven't applied for STEP. We handle the application process inside, right here within EDPNC. We'll walk you through the requirements. You have to be a small business in North Carolina. Small business typically means 500 or fewer employees, so covers most companies here in the state. So please reach out to us about that, and we'll walk you through that process to get you set up. Can I see the, move to the next slide, please? Let me show you our team. So this is us. We've got 4 trade managers, and everybody is focused on specific industries. We work throughout the state. So if you have questions in your industry, having somebody that understands the trade rules, sometimes they can be a little quirky, rules of origin and questions like that. Our team can help you. We've all been doing this for many, many years and very knowledgeable about it. We also have, I mentioned the STEP grant. So Cheryl Morrow is our new STEP grant manager, and she'll work with you on your application there and the whole process. And Joyce Spivey is our MEP program manager. We have a MEP grant as well. John Loyack is the VP of our entire division. So please reach out if we can help you. If you get the wrong person, we'll give you to the right person. Also, North Carolina's got a great network of partners. So if it's an area outside of our expertise, we know who to call. So we're good connectors in that regard as well. So if we can help you, please let us know. And Suzanne, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mike. That's terrific. And I think, as Adrian said, we work with quite a few states, but North Carolina is really, really fortunate, and we do encourage you. I know that you've got a great team with EDPNC. But I would also like to launch a quick poll. If I can get my mouse to work. It's a bit funny today, but here we go. Launch a quick poll just to ask you guys, what are your thoughts? Have you already taken advantage of the EDPNC services? Have you already, do you do this a lot? Is this a service that is your go-to service? Have you just dipped your toe in then occasionally, or if you're very much still sitting on the fence, thinking about it, looking at it, trying to discover it? Let's give you some quick feedback. First of all, well done. Thank you all for jumping in. Virtually all of you have replied, so that's really important for us. And it's really interesting, about 50% of you have not yet gone to the EDPNC services. So we do encourage you to reach out to Mike or to his team, and they are incredibly helpful resource for you. Thank you very much. I'm going to close that poll. It's the first we're going to have of a couple. And then I'm going to continue on just sort of talking a little bit about why we think websites are useful for the North Carolina companies, and sort of why we think online business development tools serve a purpose. And I guess we've all been living through this COVID time, and now we've got, as of today, even more uncertain times. What we've seen is that the last 2 years, these trends that were with us for the last 10, 15 years of moving towards these things. COVID and these extenuating circumstances really turbocharged these trends. You can imagine, okay, we were all involved, we all did e-commerce back in 2017, 2018, but in the last 2 years, it's grown 20, 30, 40, 50%. This whole movement of working from anywhere, where now I'm at home. AI, data privacy, going green, these are all huge trends that have pushed forward immensely in the last 2 years. And what they all mean, what they all rely on, are online tools, and all of them. And so that this online world has been turbocharged in the last 2 years. It's really become, we've talked about the internet being ubiquitous for a while, but it really has now seeped into all aspects of a business. From how you take decisions to how you reach out, to how you find suppliers, distributors, new clients, how your employees are working, it really is something. So that this digital divide has also increased. Those companies that are embracing it, moving forward with it, and those companies that are still sort of dealing with how best to get on board. And we're here to help in any way we can. And if we look at sort of a total global point of view, if we just say, out of what is it, 7.5 billion people on the planet, 4.9 billion of them, that's sort of 62% of the world's population uses the internet, and uses the internet daily. What amazes me is the time spent. So 4.9 billion people spend an average of 7 hours a day on the internet. This is, and one of the big things they're doing, nearly 2.5 hours of that is on social media. So if you're a small, mid-sized company, this is something that you can use as a trampoline, as a springboard. It just shows you, how and where your clients are, what they're doing. You know how to reach them, go online. You know how to interact with them through social media and your website. So this is actually really good news for you. It means you can punch above your weight. It means you can punch together at a par with the big guys in your industry. So these are some startling statistics. I think it's worth just reminding ourselves, 4.9 billion people, 7 hours a day, of which 2.5 on social media. And when we talk about online tools, what are these online tools? At its simplest, at its basic, there are two: a website and online marketing. The websites can be small brochure sites. They can be very large and complex. They can be high design, low design. They can be e-commerce enabled or not. B2B, B2C, B2 government, all kinds of different kinds of websites, but they're basically a website. And then there's online marketing. There's different types of online marketing: search engine, social media marketing, all kinds of different email marketing, all kinds of different marketing. But it's basically online marketing. And those are the two tools that you need to have as a business to grow your exports and sales globally. And when we look at it now, what we're going to be talking about today is really this sort of localization, this aspect of localizing your website. What does that actually mean to localize a website? And also, what does it mean for your e-commerce? And how does localization affect your search engine marketing, your social media marketing? So that's the core of what we're looking at, because a localized website allows you to really go beyond your borders. It allows you, and Adrian will show you some examples of how that is. So I guess when we talked about, when I raised the question of why North Carolina exporters need online business development tools, we think you need them because, as I said, the world is online. It's the easiest way to reach your clients, to engage globally, especially on the international side. And localized websites allow you to reach those local markets in order to get found, to be understood, and eventually to do business in these markets. It allows you to build that trust, which is so important for the buyer's journey, is to reach into their local markets in their local way that they want to. And I guess the great thing from our side is that you can have all of this through these North Carolina online global programs. And this is what Mike alluded to, and which Adrian will talk you through as well. So these are programs designed for North Carolina companies for small mid-cap companies to reach new markets. And I've just listed on the right-hand side of your slide there a couple of the big points we have about why people do this and how the program helps you. I think the point is that all of them are about growing your top line, and eventually your websites and your online marketing. That's what online tools do. They help grow your top line, your sales and brand awareness. Now this is a path that quite a few companies have already done, especially in North Carolina, and we're very, very proud to have served some of these North Carolina companies. This is a very messy slide. I apologize for it. It was done rather too rapidly, but it just gives you a whole bunch of the logos of companies that we are helping today or have helped in the past few months in North Carolina, and that have taken advantage of these programs. And if you want to have more detail on that, we have a whole page based on our website where you can go in and get onto the onto these videos, these testimonial videos that each show, each have one of these people speaking directly to you about their journeys and about their experiences. What's interesting from our point of view, and we do ask all of our clients, how was it? How did it go? What are the bad points? What were the good points? And so on. And what's really encouraging is that so many of the companies who build these who allow us to build websites for them, then really take charge of the websites, give them to their local distributors, use them as a sales tool in order to build their businesses internationally. And if you look in terms of some of the things that they're saying, that obviously website localization is absolutely crucial in this kind of days in these markets. That there's definitely there is a definite impact on their sales, on their contacts, on their requests for quotes, and it's the major help for their distributors as well. And finally, just sort of a few more big picture. Again, some more testimonials that you can find at any time on our website. We're very proud to work with some of these really great companies for that. I guess what I would like to ask now is, if just how many of you are already doing business internationally? How many of you are looking at international online marketing, international online websites, international online development tools? Are you currently doing any international marketing, for example? And again, just to give you some feedback, are a very responsive audience. Thank you. I'd say actually some of you, about 50% of you, are doing international online marketing domestically and some of you are doing it internationally as well. So we're very pleased to see that. But there's a good third of you who are just still thinking about it. But we're very pleased to see that some of you are already involved in that international online marketing side, and that many of you are already using that domestically. And again, thank you so much for that fast response. Right, I'm going to turn to Adrian now and look at website localization, what that means, and how you can benefit from it. Adrian?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Susanna. So here's the rationale, and a lot of people just ask us this question, right? Why can't I use my US website to go global? Maybe have a beautiful website, a website that you're very proud of, that is successful in the US market, and you may be wondering, why do I need to spend more money? Why do I need to invest in a globalized or a localized international presence? And you might be thinking, well, let me just add maybe a couple of foreign language pages and surely that'll do the trick. But unfortunately, that's just not how it works. And the reason why is search engines. And search engines, and here, we've taken sort of the market leader in this space, which is Google, with over 91% of all global searches, but also applies to search engines like Yandex and Bing and Baidu, and even these days, YouTube, Amazon, Facebook, which are all really search engines. They are all searcher-centric. The algorithms behind the search engine are all searcher-centric. And what that means is that the algorithm is there to find results that it thinks are hyper relevant to you as a searcher. So Google itself actually has 192 different country and regional specific search engines to deliver results that it thinks are going to be relevant to audiences in those specific markets. So adding a couple of additional pages to your website, unless they are highly, highly relevant to your target audience, you're pretty much going to be invisible in those markets. Let me give you an example. Say you're targeting the German market. Well, your searcher is very likely to go to google.de and search using keywords in German. And even if they do it in English, the odds are that if the results that they're going to find are going to be those results that Google thinks are hyper relevant to that searcher. And they'll also want to see measurements in metric. They're going to want to see currency in euros. So think of search engines like Google as a lot of different country and regional specific localized search engines. And to optimize for those algorithms, you should have a localized website presence. To give you a practical application of how that works, and for you guys to be able to sort of see it in real life, here's an example of a search query that we ran. One of our colleagues in Raleigh, who was traveling in Raleigh, North Carolina last week, took a snapshot. And meanwhile, Susanna was in the UK, took a snapshot of the same search query, all right, squeakless dog toys, in the same search engine, Google, but from different places. And you can see how the results are just completely different. They're in Raleigh, we got some examples that you may be familiar with. So websites like chewy.com, Amazon, a blog post on Yahoo. And then Susanna got things that are basically unknown to us, a website called like barksandbunnies.co.uk, timeforpause.co.uk. And guess what? From Amazon, a specific product that's not available in the US from amazon.co.uk. So again, same search engine, Google, same search query, and in English, and then two completely different sets of results. And you can imagine how this, once you add in language and you add in additional cultural differences in different territories, how those search results can continue to drift away from companies being and searchers being able to find you optimally. Another consideration is understanding your buyer persona and their language to be relevant. Here's another example. So car, there's two ways to really say car in Spanish. There's auto and coche. And for a company, for example, that sells car parts or car accessories and trinkets, and you're considering selling into Mexico, you really want to make sure that you're using the word auto in your translation instead of coche. And the reason why is only 27% of searchers are using the keyword coche in Mexico versus the more popular auto. So again, if you're selling car parts into Mexico, you really want to be cognizant of what keywords and what vocabulary you're using in your translation for that market. Similarly, if you are looking to sell your car parts and accessories into Spain, well, then you definitely want to use coche, because guess what? Almost all of the traffic, almost all of the search traffic is for the keyword coche as opposed to auto, and that should be used throughout your website and throughout social media in order for you to be found effectively by people who might be interested in your products. So again, same language, same search engine, but the strategy and the Google ad campaigns have to be different because of the way that language varies and the utilization of language and vocabulary changes across geographies. Another point to keep in mind is that translation and keyword research is just one small aspect of having a localized website. It's a very important aspect, but it's just one in the process. In order for search engines and specific target markets to find you, you need to make it easy as possible for it to realize that your website is relevant for that specific market. Okay, so for example, Google has a search index of hundreds of billions of pages that needs to comb through to figure out what is most relevant for the searcher. So the job and the onus is really on you. You need to make it easy for Google to find you and to make sure that you are relevant to that specific searcher in that specific market that you really want to engage with. So you need to localize your website and your marketing so that the algorithm picks you up. This includes things like hosting the website within the target market, registering a local domain name, and making sure that the website is compliant to the standards of the market, among other factors. So here's a great example of how well a localized website works. We built this website for a company that is targeting prospects in Mexico. So it's hosted on a .mx domain. It's also hosted on a cloud server in Mexico in market, so with the Mexico IP address in the background. And SEO and keyword research was done to optimize for searchers on google.com.mx in that specific local market. Now, this is a report, this is a 1-month report of traffic on the B2B site that shows that the majority of traffic, in fact, almost 90% of traffic to this website is coming from, drumroll please, Mexico. So it's incredibly effective in telling Google that this website is highly relevant to Mexico. Now, you also see that traffic is coming from other Latin American countries, namely Chile and Colombia. And together with Mexico, that's 99% of all traffic going through to that website. So Google thinks that the website is very, very relevant to Mexico, and it's only a little bit relevant to other Spanish-speaking countries. And it's almost invisible and irrelevant to other countries outside of that. The image on the right just shows you how you can even target with localization specific urban areas. So for example, this company sells products that are very relevant to a specific industry in Mexico City. So a lot of the traffic that you see on there comes from that major metropolitan area in Mexico, and that can be achieved with localization efforts. And this is how it works. So let me show you 2 more, I guess, very successful case studies from North Carolina. One is a company called Advanced Super Abrasives, or ASI for short. Now, the ASI really came to us with a bit of a dilemma back in, this must be mid-2020, obviously in the throes of the pandemic, which had really disrupted the way that they normally do business development. The director of business development and their VP of sales normally spent weeks and weeks on the road visiting with clients and just the traditional way in which business development was done. But with that not being a possibility in 2020, they really needed to embrace digital to help them not just survive, but thrive in the middle of the pandemic with their business development goals. So they came to us with a few requests. One of them was to redesign the website. They really wanted to have a refreshed brand presence in the market that spoke to just the technology and their pride in being a North Carolina company. And then the second goal was, of course, to create brand awareness and generate leads in their top 2 export markets, Canada and Mexico. So we redesigned their US website, and then we built a localized website in Canada and in Mexico to support their in-market reps. And the results are that these websites alone, the one for Mexico at least, has generated more leads for their in-market rep in Mexico, where they have completely shifted their business development strategy, and now they spend a lot less time on the road with all the leads that are being generated from their .mx website. Over 280 contact submissions generated for those 2 websites in Canada and Mexico, and over 900 emails. Another company to keep in mind is Nomadic State of Mind, mind you. And this is a festival shoe manufacturer in North Carolina. So this is as niche as it gets. And here is a company that wanted to create brand awareness and positioning in 2 of their target export markets, Taiwan and South Africa. So very, very specific markets. And their goal was to find new distributors in those markets. They really wanted to find companies that would carry their product and would market their product for them in those 2 key export markets that they had identified. So we built websites for them in South Africa on a .co.za domain, and in Taiwan, fully translated, of course, into Chinese, simplified Chinese. And those websites have delivered new leads for potential distributors in those markets, helping drive the business forward and helping grow their exports into these top export markets. And then finally, just to show you another example of e-commerce, e-commerce is a growing trend, not just in B2B, but in B2, and not just in B2C, but also in B2B. In fact, e-commerce adoption has grown in the double digits since 2020, 20% in 2020, 30% in 2021. So this is a big trend, and e-commerce is available via the North Carolina Online Global Programs, and it's there to support you in growing your direct sales efforts in the B2B sphere, in the B2C sphere, into your top export market. So I believe, Susanna, you may have a poll for us.
I do. Thank you very much, Adrian. We just wanted to ask y'all, if you had any interest in learning more about website localization. I mean, Adrian's just given you a sort of big picture view of it, and hopefully with these very sort of, we've tried to pick out as telling examples as we can, as visual examples as we can, and Adrian's highlighted some of the case studies. But if you'd like to learn more about it, if you want for us to send you some information or reach out and call, please let us know. We have, as Adrian said, a lot of things on our website that we can send you, as from infographics to white papers, depends on where else we give you a call, whichever you'd like. So again, thank you very much for responding to that so energetically, so enthusiastically. Thank you very much. I'm going to close that poll. Hold on a second. There we go. Close that poll, and then turn back to Adrian to talk a little bit about online marketing.
Great. Thanks so much, Susanna. And in fact, if you were skeptic or even a little bit unsure about how international online marketing can be beneficial for business development, especially in export markets, lean in, let's have some real talk, because you need a robust social media presence to succeed internationally in 2022. We get asked that question pretty often, do I need a social media strategy? Is it worth it? And the answer, in our opinion, but also supported by massive amounts of data, is a resolute yes. Social media allows you to build brand awareness. It allows you to connect with your audiences and really make sure that you can find them, and more importantly, that they can find you in a way, a time, and a place where they are active and engaged, when they are ready to have a conversation. So social media ends up being one of the most powerful ways for you to connect with your audiences, whether you are B2C or especially B2B. The social media helps you attract buyers to your products and services, and it gives you the ability to have direct conversations with those individuals that you need to connect with, and a time and a place of their choosing. And what's really so exciting about social media marketing is that it has really leveled the playing field for all brands to get visibility and engagement, regardless of their size or industry. And just like any business strategy, you can adjust and optimize your social media strategy, your social media presence, in fact, to align with your business objectives. Is your objective to grow e-commerce sales? Is it to generate B2B leads and meetings? Is it to find new distributors or suppliers? This can all be achieved by leveraging social media tools, with the added benefit of being able to measure performance at a very granular level, and really as often as you want, on a daily basis if you wanted to. And importantly, you can differentiate your strategy in one market versus another. So you can have different strategies for different buyer personas in different markets. So how do you get started with that differentiation? I just threw in a buzzword in there when I talked about buyer persona. But buyer persona, really, if you're not familiar with that term, all it is a fictional representation of your ideal customer based on demographic information and real data that you probably already have about your existing customers. What's important to note, however, is that your international buyer persona can differ from your domestic buyer persona. Okay, so you may have different profiles for your international buyers from your domestic buyers. And in fact, your international buyers in different markets may be different from each other. So on this slide, are a few questions you may ask yourself, like, are there multiple buyer personas for my export markets? How do they find me? What do they care about? What are their values? And just to briefly mention an example here, L'Oreal, the famous cosmetic brand, they're frequently cited for how spot on they are with their international marketing. Here is an image of L'Oreal USA, and what you can see is that women are on the top floor. They are empowered, they are in charge. It is a diverse working environment. But now look at the next slide, and what you'll see is in L'Oreal Brazil, a very different sort of environment from the previous two. And we can tell it's Brazil just from the imagery and the background. You can see the waters and the mountain. The atmosphere looks like it's modern, but it's still tied to nature, all values that are very pertinent to Brazilian people's lives. And even the messaging is different. They are saying that they have been innovating for the past 60 years to share beauty with all Brazilians. And then finally, we have Mexico. And Mexico is different because it's the only one that features a male. So in Mexico, there you go. You have collaboration, and you have a sort of a balance between male and female in their imagery. So those are clearly values that are important to connecting to Mexican consumers for L'Oreal products. So each buyer persona has been clearly delineated. They are different, and the messaging on each one of L'Oreal's localized websites is respectful of those nuances and differences in the buyer persona. So now you may be curious of how personas can really vary across geographies. Do they really vary? Do they behave differently? And the answer is they really sure can. Here's a great example of how different buyer persona interact with social media campaigns. So this is an example from a Facebook campaign we ran for a company, and it's promoting the same product, similar imagery and message. Of course, we localized it and we tweaked it a little bit to stay relevant to the local audience, but really it's pretty much the same ad. And if we look at the results for this specific post in the UK, it just garnered over 1,200 engagements, and we were kind of pleased with that. But then you look at the engagements for that same post in Mexico, and surprise, surprise, 20,000 different engagements. So we just stopped there and we said, wow, 20,000, 1,200, clearly Mexico is a better market for this. That would be just a sort of top level analysis there. But digging in a little bit deeper, what you see is that, in fact, while there was more engagement and there were more views and just more participation from Mexico, you can see here in the red and blue bars, engagement is just measured by the way, the number of times that people click on the link, they liked it, they shared it, they commented. And that's very important for sort of the long-term brand awareness. But what happened to lead generation? What happened to the conversion rate? You know, how effective were these ads? You know, the clicks and likes are nice, but how are they actually generating activity that leads to revenue? Well, looking at that a bit closer and looking at the second layer of the analytics, you can see that the UK and Mexico are actually a lot closer, a lot more similar when we're looking at that specific statistic. And that's reflected in the green and yellow bars in the bottom chart. These two show the number of times that people clicked on the call to action of where can I buy and how do I use your product. So what you can see essentially is that the Mexican buyer persona engages more easily. They're very happy to share and like and comment. But the Brits, even though they're a bit more frosty and maybe not so likely to do that, those 1,200 engagements actually generated just as many sales and just as many leads for this particular company. So the buyer personas in those two markets clearly react differently to specific triggers, and therefore the expectations on engagement and the expectations on conversion for your social media strategy need to be gauged around those performance indicators. So what are some online marketing best practices? You may be wondering, okay, well, what do I do and how do I get started? So here are on the screen some recommendations from us, but my advice in short is fewer, bigger, better. And that's the simplest path to success when it comes to a social media platform portfolio. You know, trying to manage your presence on multiple platforms, it's likely to stretch your resources, not just monetarily, but also your human resources. It's just very taxing and tiring. And you'll quickly reach diminishing returns with that strategy, especially if you're not creating unique content for each platform. So focus on the platform which, or the platforms, plural, which will give you the best return on investment, where your buyer persona is most likely to engage. And then finally, keep doing it. The social media and online marketing is a long-term plan. It's a long-term game, and it requires constant tweaking to make sure that your goals and your indexes of success are met. So just to say, the North Carolina Online Global Programs also include international online marketing, and that's comprised of search engine marketing, social media marketing, and of course the business intelligence piece, reporting and analytics, to help you accelerate your export growth and reach your target buyer persona faster and more efficiently. And I believe, Susanna, there is a poll question.
There is. Again, no, this is my last one, promise. But we similar to the online, the website localization, we just want to know if any of you want further information, further assets, or telephone calls, whatever, reach out about the online marketing side. And as Adrian said, it's part of the North Carolina Online Global Programs and grants available. So if you have an interest in that, please let us know, and we can send you resources or reach out to you directly or whatever. And yeah, a resounding yes from many of you. Thank you very much indeed for that. We'll circle back to you in due course in that case. Thank you very much for that. Right, I'm going to close this poll. Thank you very much. And I think we're sort of going to wrap up a little bit. I've noticed quite a few questions have come in, and we will get to those and get back to you with that. But just sort of want to round up just for the sort of takeaway, getting back to that question of why we think online business development tools make a difference for North Carolina exporters. Remember those numbers we saw earlier, 4.9 billion people, 7 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day on social media. Good news for you. So you know where your clients, your prospects, your suppliers, your distributors, you know where they are, you know how to reach them. And how to reach them and engage with them best is through localizing your websites and your online business development tools. As Adrian gave those examples of how, if you want Google to think that you are relevant in Japan, then you need a Japanese website that feels and looks local, and a marketing strategy that does the same. Same for Mexico, even for the UK. You need a different English, a different feel in order for Google to make sure that you are relevant and pertinent and show up in a good position in those markets. So get found, be understood, and do business in your export markets. And we are really proud of our North Carolina Online Global Program. We have helped North Carolina companies achieve greater sales. That's what it's all about in their international markets. And you've got such a great team there with the EDPNC. Get on board, reach out, and start the journey as well, just to encourage you as much as we can. And with that, I'm going to sort of turn to questions. And we promised that we will get you back to your desks certainly within the hour. But just there's a couple of questions that have come in, so we'll cherry pick them as well. Mike, there's 2 questions for you. One is about the application process. I guess they're related. How does the step process work? Should I as a company contact IBT Online first, or should I be contacting the EDPNC?
You could actually talk to both, but to get the step process started, contact us and we'll walk you through it. You need to be pre-approved with STEP if STEP's going to pay for this or to reimburse you for this. So you want to reach out to us immediately if you're serious looking into this. It's been hugely successful for dozens of companies over the last 2 years. So, but reach out to us first. We'll walk you through the process.
Thanks, Mike. Another question for you as well, just while you're here. I am a service company. Does STEP apply for service companies as well as manufacturers?
It applies to many service companies. Again, check with us. There are some that it does not, and SBA has rules on that. It applies to most, however. If you have a product or a service to export and you're a small business, you're in the state, then generally, yes, it does apply.
Okay, and the last one I have as well, can I apply for STEP twice? I don't know if that means twice in the same year or twice consecutive years. Can I apply for it twice?
Sure, you apply for STEP once, and if you want to add something later, you come back to us and we talk about that, what it is that you wish to add. The baskets that are within STEP are set. So the travel basket is $3,000, and that's a cap. And you can use funds for travel up to $3,000, or you can use funds for website optimization up to $10,000, but you can't exceed that in that given year. But you can come back if you want to add something. If you've already applied for travel to go to a trade show, for example, you can add website optimization. Just come to us and we make an amendment to your application.
Okay. Just before we go on to other questions, a couple of you are asking whether this is being recorded. Yes, it is being recorded, and we will be sharing the recording on I think on Monday, but you'll get it in your inbox if in case. Right, there's here's a question. I'm gonna throw this one at you, Adrian. It's sort of I'm wondering whether to put it on, but I think I will. Just basically says it's a sad day today. Adrian, any thoughts on how Russia's invasion of the Ukraine might affect trade?
That's a loaded and heavy-handed question, but I'm happy to give it a try. It is very sad, and in fact, I guess if your top export markets are Russia or the Ukraine, then it's probably even sadder today if that's the case. But two things that I'll mention. One is transatlantic trade is probably going to increase as a result of this. I think the U.S. will turn its attention towards Europe again as a result of supporting NATO. And so that's likely to increase and to become further strengthened. So I would expect that as a result of this particular incident. But then also there are some just overarching trends which are not going to be buckled by this recent sort of incident in the Donbass region. And specifically what I mean by that is the growth of e-commerce and the growth of digital trade. Digital trade is a trend. It's not just a trend now. It's a sort of a moment in time that is growing. And the indicators for the growth of digital trade are only increasing. And as travel still is a challenge with not just restrictions because of COVID-19, but also potentially because of what's going on in between Russia and the Ukraine. Digital trade will continue to grow and will continue to be a way for companies to connect with each other, for buyers and sellers to connect with each other, whether you are a B2C or a B2B company. So I think all indicators, even though today is sort of a sad day, and all indicators point to more growth in transatlantic trade and more growth in digital trade. And so with the North Carolina Online Global Programs, we can support companies looking to invest in digital trade and to keep growing their exports and sales despite sort of the dynamics of the world at the moment.
Thanks, Adrian. Quick question as well, just getting back to the websites. How long? I have a trade show coming up in May. How long does it take to build a website for a market?
It's a great question. And in fact, a lot of people come to us with that. They're looking at attending. Arab Health was just recently held, but there's an example. They're looking at going to Farnborough, the Paris Air Show. Farnborough is coming up in July for aviation companies. So it takes us 3 months to build one or two localized websites. It's a very robust process, very sort of established process with the key meetings and a process and a project behind it. So 3 months is the timeline.
Also, Adrian, what are your top export markets at the moment?
So that a lot of focus has been on the USMCA. Canada, Mexico continue to be some of the top two markets that companies ask us for, and increasingly there's a lot of investment into those two markets, into growing trade under the USMCA agreement. A lot of companies are taking advantage of that. We've also seen an uptick and increase in transatlantic trade, especially in Germany and France, a lot of e-commerce projects into those two markets. And then also Southeast Asia. So Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, a lot of interest in that region recently, and a lot of projects going forward recently in Southeast Asia.
Great. Slightly technical. Here's an interesting question as well. How have Apple's new privacy settings changed the return on investment on online marketing? I think that's a whole big subject matter that we can go into an entire webinar about, and it's not just about Apple. Sorry, that's my dog barking in the background. Apologies. But it does affect the ROI. It does affect how Apple and marketeers are looking at this. What I can say is that it comes down again and again to how good your content is. And this actually makes it even more important to have the right content and the right marketing content. And that is what pushes through. So what these new privacy settings do, whether it's Google applying it or whatever, or Apple, they make sure that the best only comes through, that the bad marketing will be just funneled out. And it's part of another wave as well. Privacy is going to be a dominant, or the increase of privacy is going to be a dominant feature going forward across markets. We're seeing that from China, Japan, Canada, the USA, Europe, everywhere. I think one last question before we let you go is basically about what platforms do we prefer on international e-commerce for your e-commerce websites? Do we use particular platforms? Yes, we do. Certain platforms work better internationally and multilingually than others. Certain platforms don't allow you to have multi-site environment. So we do prefer certain types of platforms which lend themselves best to multilingual ones. For example, a WordPress plus a WooCommerce plugin works very well. Shopify multi-site has not yet been rolled out, but we are anxiously awaiting it. Although the first round up might have some bugs in it, we'll see. But that is something I think that we're going to see more and more of as well, is the sort of multilingual, multi-site environments going forward. There's a few more questions coming through. We promise to get you all back to your desks in time, though. I want to thank Mike and the whole EDPNC team so much for being here, for attending, for helping us and supporting us with North Carolina companies. Thank Adrian for presenting so brilliantly on website localization and online marketing. And for all of you, and especially with your questions, if we didn't answer them directly, we will email you responses. I see there's a couple that are quite specific, so we're going to save those for email responses. And thank you all for being a really fantastic group today. Let me talking about website localization in North Carolina. Thank you. Stay safe. Stay sane. And we'll see you online and offline. Hopefully offline soon as well, in person. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.